The closing arguments happened yesterday in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, and I don't see how he could be found guilty of any of the charges. The prosecution reeked of desperation. They actually changed their reasoning for why Rittenhouse is guilty. At the beginning of this trial, in their opening statement, the prosecution said that the evidence will show that the defendant chased down a guy by the name of Rosenbaum and shot him in the back, killing him.
The evidence in this case will show that on the night of August 25th, 2020, here in our community of Kenosha, the defendant Kyle Rittenhouse, who was 17 years old at the time, had armed himself with an AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle loaded with 30 rounds in the magazine. And using that rifle, he shot and killed Joseph Rosenbaum, an unarmed man. The shot that killed Mr. Rosenbaum was a shot to the back. This occurred after the defendant chased down Mr. Rosenbaum and confronted him while wielding that AR-15.
Fast forward 2 weeks to their closing argument, and now they say Rittenhouse provoked Rosenbaum into attacking him, so Rittenhouse can no longer claim self-defense.
And one of the things to keep in mind is that when the defendant provokes the incident, he loses the right to self-defense. You cannot claim self-defense against a danger you create. That's critical right here. If you're the one who is threatening others, you lose the right to claim self-defense.
Yesterday, the prosecution was desperate, and it showed. The prosecutor kept referring to Rittenhouse as an active shooter. According to the Office of Emergency Management at UCLA, the definition of an active shooter is a situation where one or more suspects participate in a random or systematic shooting spree and demonstrate intent to continuously harm others. That is obviously not what happened in this case. Rittenhouse did not go on a shooting spree. He only shot at people who were trying to attack him. Now, I want to step back for a second. Even if asked to help out, I'm not letting my 17-year-old son go and protect someone's business with a firearm. I think it was foolish for his mother to drive him to Kenosha and to allow him to take part in the chaos. But that doesn't make Rittenhouse guilty of anything. The video evidence clearly shows that Rittenhouse acted in self-defense. Whether you think he should have been there or not, he only shot at people who were trying to attack him. And not because he provoked them either, or that would have been their argument from the beginning. The second point the prosecutor tried to make in his closing argument was that Rittenhouse was never in any real danger. Not enough to use deadly force, they think. According to the prosecutor, it isn't reasonable to believe that fists and feet and skateboards to the back of the head could cause great bodily harm. Ironically, the FBI crime statistics show that about twice as many people are murdered every year with fists and feet than are murdered with rifles. In 2019, there were 364 people murdered with rifles. That same year, 600 people were murdered with fists and feet. So it is very reasonable to believe that an unarmed man could cause great bodily harm. Not to mention that the two people that were killed both went for his gun. The prosecutor did everything he could to minimize the threats Rittenhouse faced. He said Rosenbaum wasn't a threat because he was short. He described a guy who punched Rittenhouse in the back of the head as just knocking his hat off. And then the prosecution, in their rebuttal, ridiculed the idea that a skateboard could be a deadly weapon.
And now, a skateboard is a deadly weapon. Someone should tell all the parents and grandparents and Santa Claus giving skateboards this Christmas about how they're giving their children a deadly weapon. I guess they should get them an AR-15 instead.
According to the FBI's crime statistics, more people are murdered with blunt objects than are murdered with rifles every year. So yes, a 10-pound skateboard made of wood and metal can cause great bodily harm. I seriously can't see any other outcome other than not guilty on all counts for Rittenhouse. And if that's what happens, I'm afraid there are going to be riots all over again, and more people getting hurt, and more businesses being burned to the ground. And if that happens, it'll be because of the leftist media and politicians claiming things like Rittenhouse is a white supremacist and the people he killed were civil rights activists, neither of which is true. If the media were honest, the talk around this trial would be that it looks like Rittenhouse is actually innocent of all charges. And if they let the truth actually be the narrative for once, people would be less inclined to go out and riot when the verdict is read. Now, I'll admit, I didn't watch every second of this trial, but Kyle Rittenhouse looks to be innocent. And the desperation from the prosecution in their closing arguments made it abundantly clear. And that's the simple truth. Hey guys, thanks for watching. And if you all want to support this channel, check out the links in the description, and let's keep putting some common sense back into the great debate.